have a problem with my TV. I bought it secondhand years ago, and although the quality is very good and it has Android built in, it's very slow. And when it comes to opening apps, in addition to being incompatible with most of them, when it comes to loading them, it's more of the same. But I think I have a solution. This is the laptop I studied with, or at least it used to be, until one day the screen went out and wouldn't turn back on. However, the rest of the components still worked, so I dismantled it to leave only the essentials, which is actually the photo I have on the YouTube channel banner. If you end up liking this video, I would appreciate it if you subscribed. But, going back to the laptop, I added more RAM and more storage, and connected it to the TV to replace the Android TV. But since it looked really shabby and I didn't make it very practical, I ended up removing it and it ended up in the drawer, gathering dust. So this time I want it to be different. I want to build something that matches the room, but is also practical and easy to use. But first, let's put it back together and check if it still works. And although it might seem impossible in this state, it still works perfectly and in fact has a point installed from the last time I used it with the TV, so that will make our work easier later on. So now that I have the computer that I'm going to use with the TV, it's time to design a case for it. And looking at photos on Pinterest, I found some designs to take inspiration from, like this one with a rectangle pattern on the ventilation. I like this one so that you can see the components inside, like the fan. And this one, well, we're going to move on to this one. And one thing is clear to me, the entire box is going to be 3D printed. I also like the idea of it having a fractal hole pattern, because if all 3D printed boxes have it, there must be a reason. Although this design with a transparent part isn't bad at all, not bad at all. Well, this one is too much and this one isn't bad either. And that's when I saw it. If the only tool you have is a hammer, everything around you looks like a nail. My entire room is full of 3D prints and that's fine, but I'm closing the door to more complete designs that incorporate other materials or different techniques. That's why I want to try something different for this project. For the printed parts of the design, I bought a filament that hides the print lines quite well. Specifically, Bambulapse PLA with carbon fiber. Since I want to light up the computer from the inside, I bought some USB LED strips and to make the computer transparent, some methacrylate that we'll see later. So, taking into account the things we liked and the materials we want to use, we can move on to the design. The first thing we'll do is draw the holes for the motherboard so we can screw it to the case we're going to print. And when the measurements look right, we can print the supports to see if there are any that aren't properly adjusted. In my case, I had to adjust some of the supports by a couple of millimeters, but overall they turned out pretty well. And with that done, the rest of the design was simple because I wanted the non-printed parts to be the main focus. That's why I've put the power button and the SDS slots on one side. Next to it, there's a hole for the connections and power supply. Inside, there's a slot to insert a removable disc with movies, videos, and music, and a hole for the USB that will connect it, and the disc's output on the other side. For ventilation, I wanted to reference the fractal design we were talking about, so I've added these little holes so that air can pass through the case. And finally, at the top, there's a slot for the methacrylate to slide through. And that's how it should look. So we can print it and check it out. And now with all the pieces, we can see that the result is very good. The sides don't look like they're 3D printed, and although you can see the bottom, since it's printed with another material, it won't matter because the board will cover it. And when I was going to put the threads to screw the plate, that's when things went wrong. I had made a rookie mistake. The holes for the inserts were too big, but everything has a solution, so I started designing some pieces to make the holes narrower and at the same time give the base plate a little more height. When I finished the design, I named it and sent it to print. And while it prints, we are going to take the opportunity to join all the pieces. For that, the best thing is to use a soldering iron to solder them together.